The air here carries a physical weight, a dense collision of Indian Ocean humidity and the acrid smoke of burning diesel that registers at 90% saturation before sunrise. You can taste the salt. Before the first limestone block was ever cut from the quarry, this coastline was defined by the relentless rhythm of the tide slapping against mangrove roots and ancient coral shelves. It is a sensory assault. Today, that same saltwater air corrodes steel beams on billion-dollar skyscrapers, while the heat radiates off the asphalt at temperatures hot enough to soften the soles of your shoes. This is where the continent meets the world. It began with a decision made by one man standing on a humid shoreline in 1862. Sultan Majid bin Said of Zanzibar looked across the channel and saw not just a fishing village called Mzizima, but a fortress of commerce waiting to be dredged from the mud. He commanded a city to rise. He named it Dar-es-Salaam, the haven of peace, a title that now feels like an ironic whisper beneath the roar of piled drivers and container trucks. His vision was absolute. Yet when he died in 1870, the jungle almost reclaimed the palace, leaving cracked walls and silence where he had planned a metropolis. The resurrection of this city was neither peaceful nor swift, driven by the cold calculations of imperial engineers who saw the harbor's depth as a strategic weapon. German colonizers arrived with blueprints for gridiron streets and imposing administrative buildings that ignored the sweltering tropical reality. They built the Azania Front Lutheran Church, its red-tiled roof acting as a beacon for ships navigating the treacherous channel, stone by stone. But the true engineering challenge was the land itself, a swampy coastal plain that fought back against every foundation poured into its soil. By the time the British took control after the First World War, the city had become a segregated chessboard, with zones strictly delineated by race and class, a layout that still haunts the urban geography today. The Askari Monument stands in the center of a roundabout that once dictated who could move where. History is etched in concrete. When Tanzania finally won its independence in 1961 under the leadership of Julius Nyerere, the city was a colonial artifact that needed to be repurposed for a new African socialist identity. Nyerere saw the city not just as a port, but as a manufacturing engine. However, the real explosion happened decades later, transforming a sleepy administrative center into one of the fastest-growing urban agglomerations on the planet. The scale is terrifying. In the last 20 years, the population has surged from 2 million to over 5 million, a demographic tidal wave that no master plan could have predicted. To understand this growth, look at the Kariakou Market, a brutalist concrete cathedral of trade designed by architect B.J. Ambas in the 1970s. It was meant to bring order. Instead, it is the epicenter of a chaotic commercial supernova where 300,000 people trade daily in a space designed for a fraction of that number. The city's survival now depends on engineering marvels that defy the suffocating congestion. The Bus Rapid Transit System, or the DART, is a blue artery of concrete slicing through the gridlock of Morogoro Road. It changed everything. Before its construction, a commute from the outskirts could take 4 hours of inhaling toxic fumes in a cramped minibus. Now, streamlined blue buses glide past the paralysis on dedicated lanes that required the demolition of hundreds of storefronts and the pouring of thousands of tons of reinforced concrete. It is a ruthlessly efficient machine. This single infrastructure project, costing upwards of $150 million for its first phase, reduced travel times by more than half, fundamentally altering the economic velocity of the city. Yet the most visually striking transformation hovers over the water. The Nyerere Bridge, spanning 680 meters across the creek to Kigamboni, was the first cable-stayed bridge in East Africa, a massive injection of steel and tension that finally connected the isolated southern peninsula to the central business district. It is a giant. Construction crews battled the corrosive sea air and shifting riverbed sands to anchor its pylons deep into the earth. More recently, the Tanzanite Bridge has rewritten the coastal aesthetic, stretching 1.03 kilometers across the salter waters near the Aga Khan Hospital. At night, its LED lights reflect off the dark ocean like a futuristic spine, symbolizing a city that is finally turning to face the water that gave it birth. Architects and engineers like those at the Tanzania National Roads Agency had to account for rising sea levels and the immense weight of heavy freight traffic. Steel meets the sea. But beneath these gleaming bridges lies a darker, wetter reality that threatens to undo centuries of progress. Dar-es-Salaam is a city fighting a war against water, both from the ocean and the sky. The Msimbazi River Valley, which cuts through the heart of the metropolis, is a flood zone where thousands of informal structures are washed away with terrifying regularity. During the long rains, the drainage systems, some dating back to the colonial era, collapse under the volume, turning highways into rivers. It is a recurring nightmare. Urban planners like the late Dr. Harry Mbanya warned for years that the concrete sprawl was sealing the earth, preventing rainwater from soaking into the ground. Hidden beneath the pavement of the central business district is a labyrinth of aging iron pipes and overloaded sewage lines that serve a population 10 times larger than they were designed for. Maintenance crews work in the dead of night. They descend into the subterranean darkness to clear blockages of plastic waste and solidified grease, fighting a losing battle against the city's refuse. It is a dirty, dangerous job. Meanwhile, in the informal settlements of Manzis and Tandil, a different kind of infrastructure keeps the city alive. A web of illegal power connections and water vendors pushing yellow jerry cans on wooden carts. This is the invisible city. It operates outside the government blueprints, a self-organizing organism that houses 70% of the population. Here, the architecture is not glass and steel, but corrugated iron sheets, mud bricks, and sheer human resilience. It is survival architecture. The government's attempts to formalize these areas often involve bulldozers, creating a tense standoff between the need for order and the right to shelter. Despite these subterranean struggles, the surface of Dar es Salaam is racing toward a high-tech future. The skyline is pierced by the Tanzania Ports Authority Tower, a 40-story glass cylinder that allows harbor masters to monitor cargo ships in the harbor from a bird's-eye view. It is the tallest building in the country. From its observation deck, you can see the container cranes moving like robotic giants, stacking steel boxes that contain everything from Japanese cars to Chinese electronics. The port is the lung of the regional economy, breathing goods into landlocked neighbors like Zambia and Rwanda. Current President Samia Suluhu Hassan has pushed for the completion of the standard gauge railway, a project that is currently carving a path of electric modernity through the chaotic urban fabric. The new station looks like a spaceship landed in the tropics. It promises to hurtle passengers to Dodoma at speeds of 160 kilometers per hour, a stark contrast to the rusty colonial rails that preceded it. This is the new velocity, but the ambition of Dar es Salaam comes with a heavy price tag and an expiration date set by the climate. The ocean is rising. On the northern shores, luxury hotels are already losing their beaches to the encroaching tide, forcing owners to build desperate concrete seawalls that only delay the inevitable. The salt eats everything. Environmental engineers are now proposing massive mangrove restoration projects and fortified levees to save the city from drowning by 2050. The construction sites operate 24 hours a day, bathed in the harsh glow of floodlights. Sparks from welding torches cascade down from skeleton frames of new luxury apartments in the Oyster Bay district. The noise never stops. It is a cacophony of progress. In the financial district, the Bank of Tanzania's twin towers stand guard over the nation's wealth, their gold-tinted glass mirroring the frantic energy of the street level. This is a city of distinct layers, where the dust of the 19th century coral buildings mixes with the exhaust of 21st century SUVs. A helicopter aerial over the city reveals the stark divide, the verdant, tree-lined avenues of the north versus the dense, brown mosaic of tin roofs stretching endlessly to the west. It is a visual shock. The city is expanding outward at a rate of 6% per year, consuming surrounding forests and farmland with a voracious appetite for space. There is a specific spot near the Kivu fish market where the history of the city converges in a single frame. You can stand there at dawn, smelling the raw fish and the diesel, and see the traditional dhows sailing past the massive container ships. The old meets the new. The dhows, built with designs that haven't changed in 1,000 years, navigate the same waters as vessels carrying fiber optic cables that connect Tanzania to the global internet. These cables, landing secretly on the ocean floor, are the invisible umbilical cords feeding the city's burgeoning tech sector. Young coders in the innovation hubs of Kinondoni are building apps to solve the very traffic problems that the engineers are trying to fix with concrete. Innovation is born from necessity. They are the new architects of Dar es Salaam, designing digital infrastructures to bypass the physical limitations of their environment. As the sun sets, the city transforms into a landscape of neon and shadows. The humidity does not break. The streetlights flicker on, illuminating the thousands of pedestrians crossing busy intersections, weaving between cars with the practiced ease of a river flowing around rocks. It is a human tide. In the distance, the lights of the port burn bright, a reminder that the city never sleeps because the trade never stops. Dar es Salaam is no longer just a haven of peace. It is a crucible of the future African metropolis. It is messy, loud, and undeniably powerful. The original plan of Sultan Majid has been obliterated by reality, replaced by a sprawling living entity that refuses to be contained by maps or master plans. It grows because it must. Walking through the narrow alleys of Stone Town or the wide boulevards of the city center, you realize that the true foundation of this city is not the coral stone or the imported steel. It is the sheer will of its people to forge a life between the swamp and the sea. They build, they rebuild, and they adapt. In the end, Dar es Salaam stands as a testament to the chaotic beauty of rapid urbanization. It is a warning and a promise written in concrete and salt water. The city does not ask for permission to exist, it simply demands that you witness its rise. This is the century of the African city, and Dar es Salaam is leading the charge.